want you to know as well, and I would encourage our fans and everyone to recognize there will be a lot of rumors out there. There's going to be a lot of innuendo. I want you to know that these sort of decisions and processes are not made in a silo. I have a lot of great mentors and friends that we'll be working with. And ultimately, in a prior life, I have relationships with a lot of coaches in this business, and I intend to reach out to a lot of people. And so if you hear that Trev Alberts reached out to XYZ coach, it doesn't mean that I've offered the job to XYZ coach. I think there's some fabulous coaches out there that have a perspective about our job that I could benefit from. And so I'm going to reach out to a lot of people. And so if you hear that Trev Alberts reached out to XYZ coach, it might very well be true. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to hire that coach. I'd like to get that perspective. I'd like to get a perspective of a coach who isn't here right now about our job.
It's something I've been looking forward to for a while. Me and my family, we love it. I trust this program. I trust Mickey. I know he's going to take care of me.
Why Nebraska? Was it an easy decision for you? I know you had a lot of...
That relationship I got with Mickey and his coaching staff is untouchable. Nobody's going to have a relationship like we have.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast, the Husker Fan Sports Show.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, David Gaspers, and I'm with Honke.
I want to thank Redcast Nation out there. We are now officially over 20,000 followers. Redcast Nation, you have grown. You've done wonderful. Thank you. And while you're at it, help us reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube as well. So click that like and subscribe and whatever they call it, pound the bell and
smash the bell.
Smash the bell. Hit it as hard as you can.
All right. Also with Redcast Rob.
Well, after some nice words by my mom, by my dad, by my teachers, by my principals, I think I've made my decision, and well, I'm gonna just kidding. I'm gonna stick with the Redcast.
All right. Rob has chosen the Redcast. I don't know if the Redcast has chosen Rob, but also with Boomer.
I'm glad to see that crystal ball prediction I made stayed true there. So that's good, Rob. But and I'd also just like to mention to all the family members, the brothers, sisters, sons, daughters that have been clamoring to get on the Redcast. Just look at the results you get out of Iowa this week, where nepotism gives you. And no, we're putting our foot down, and that's why. So not on our watch. It won't be.
Sorry,
happening
Katie.
here.
Sorry, Kathy.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Brian Frentz. I mean, when you're not going to worry to get fired, you don't have to do any real work, and that includes putting in a game plan that produces offensive touchdown, because, why would that be necessary?
Sure doesn't seem to be.
Honke, we had a great time. I was happy to be in Nebraska for a bit over the weekend and able to catch some football with you.
Yeah, I had a good time. Got to watch a lot of football, a lot of the games that we're referencing there, and yeah, it was a good time. We got to see Jack and our buddy Schlitz and graphic designer Swobes came out with us. So we entertained Omaha for a while on Saturday and watched a lot of football. Good times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Rob, you're heading back out to Nebraska here next month. Is that right?
I am. Speaking of entertaining Omaha, I don't know if Honke has the graphic up or not, or has it available, but look at that. We're going to be doing another Redcast live at the Hale Varsity Club on Friday, November 18th. We'll start around 6, end around 8. It's free entry, all ages. There's even on our Facebook page, if you follow us on Facebook, I posted a link today. You can click on and actually make a reservation, because last time, apparently, it was pretty full there. I think Dave's family showed up, so it was basically packed because, they but I actually have no idea. I was at the 311 concert front row. So, but we will be back out there. I'm actually coming out there. My son Jonah is going to be making the trip with me. It's going to be his first in-person Husker game to watch.
That's
so
awesome.
He's pretty excited. I'm really excited for him too. So
that's good. Boomer, I see that it's first of all, it's free entry, so we're not no cover charge yet, unlike our house parties at the Charleston House back in the day when we were in college. And then it's all ages, so Rob can't swear.
Right. Also, unlike our house parties back.
Well,
in
you've obviously never seen me host trivia in the bars on Sunday night because it's all ages too, and let me tell you, that doesn't stop me. Just saying.
Well, Robert.
Great.
Well, we'll see. But it sounds like an awesome time. I'm at this point, I'm going to miss that one, but it's awesome. Honke, before we dive into kind of what happened over the last 2 weeks, because we did take last week off and look forward to Illinois, you want to take care of some business with our sponsors?
Absolutely. As usual, we have our promo code Redcast. Go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and use Redcast at checkout. You'll get $10 off your annual subscription. And if you are a Hail Varsity member, subscriber, and you go to Hail Varsity Club, you'll get, I believe it's 10% off your bill there on the food and the drinks. So it's a good deal. You definitely want to do that. Alumni Hall, 2 Lincoln locations, downtown 1120 P Street and South Point Pavilions behind Barnes & Noble. Get yourself a whole bunch of good Husker gear. You can see the Hawaiian shirt here that we've had with Rob, and maybe we should throw up a couple new photos even there. I mean, I know I got some gear from them a couple weeks ago, but yeah, great stuff. Go to Alumni Hall. And then, of course, Smack and Smooch custom shirts and specialty items. Shane and Laura out there in Elwood. You can find them on Facebook and Twitter. They are getting we're getting a bunch of new shirts and koozies and stuff made, which we'll do some more giveaways at the Hail Varsity Club. So, Redcasters definitely want to have you come out there. We gave away a lot of free swag the last time, and we'll do it again here. And then here's the Honke Rhule thing. I don't know what that one is. So
it's uncanny.
Doppelganger. So we'll have to move that out of the that area. But
should get a Redcast Rhule hashtag going on.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Ooh, Redcast. Oh, if he becomes the coach, we could be the Redcast Rules.
Yeah. This is the actual same photo here.
It's ridiculous.
It really is uncanny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
That's
so
great.
I got that going for you. Dave, at the beginning there, I had a couple of videos going. One of them being Malachi Coleman, his commitment,
Right.
but the other one was Trev Alberts. Just the press conference when he let Frost go, and it's like, well, why are we playing that again? It might be one I just keep pulling out every couple of weeks where people are, Trev said it up front. I'm going to talk to a lot of people. I'm going to, we still get all the flight trackers and everyone thinks they know who the next coach is going to be, and it changes from day to day. But Trev kind of told us about a month or so ago that this is what he's going to be doing. He'll be talking to a lot of people. So I might keep, bringing that audio back every once in a blue moon just to kind of remind people of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea because it's easy to kind of forget how this all started and some of the kind of principles that Trev laid out in that interview that will be helpful ultimately once we get to a decision on the coach. So yeah, I hear you. I'm still surprised. I feel like Trev didn't know he was going to do that press conference, that he was really going to fire Frost on that weekend, largely because I feel like he was due a haircut. He was a little too shaggy on the sides, and you could tell that he didn't think this was coming until October 1st. But hey, he had to pull the trigger.
Dave,
I think that
Dave
was
knows
a
media,
joke.
man.
I think that was a joke by Dave.
No, it's not a
No,
joke. I sincerely, that's a telltale sign that he did not expect to fire.
It's just like people who always watch the Fed for little clues of what they're going to do with interest rates. Dave's paying attention to haircut styles.
To haircuts.
On
telling you,
athletic
Trev knew
directors.
he
I
was
like
gonna
that,
do a
though.
press
It's
Speaking of which,
That's
Dave,
Sunday.
your hair looks extremely nice tonight. Have you recently gotten a haircut? It looks good.
Yeah. I've been keeping it a little tight on the sides myself, and I think Trev likes to do that when he's really ready for a primetime interview, but that just is not the case.
I've been keeping it tight on top, but that's been more natural.
Well,
So,
Dave, I will say this. I stood very close to Trev for probably half of that Rutgers game, and not on purpose. We just happened to be moving.
Sure, Rob, you weren't stopping him at all.
Only a little. But his hair kind of looked like that then too, just for the record. Like,
well,
his
he
hair
got the haircut for the Oklahoma weekend. See, you're
that's
when
the
it
time.
looked,
I see what you're saying. So it's been like 3 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I bet it's going to look sharp when he has the
go to Hugo's. All right.
introductory press conference. His hair will be immaculate, guaranteed.
Okay.
There you go.
My
I believe
prediction.
you.
Now I'm going to have to keep an eye on
Now,
that.
if you can track and Trev and say, hey, he just got a haircut, there might be a press conference on the way. I'm just saying. We track flights. We might
I
as
was
well
going to say,
track
people are
Trev's haircut.
tracking flights. We might as well track haircuts too. You're right.
There you go.
Boomer, what were our best flight trackers this last week?
It's all the typical ones. Everyone's eyeballing places like Columbus, Ohio, and Lincoln, and Oxford, Mississippi, and things like that. So those tend to be the popular choices I've noticed.
We resolved that it was Rob actually that wanted to fly to Oxford. Is that right, Honk?
Yeah, I think so.
There's actually a story behind that, Dave. First of all, I stopped in Lincoln and I picked up Honke, and we were drinking a lot. Then we went to Oxford because he mentioned some drink that Boomer had brought up, and he was like, we gotta try the hottie toddy. Yeah. So we went to Oxford. See, I was hammered at that point, so I don't even remember. We went to Oxford. We got to Oxford, and for reasons I won't disclose, we left Oxford very quickly, but I wasn't too welcome there. And then
I think you went to Jackson.
We might have, but on the way back, I stopped in Scotts Bluff because I really like their visitor center. And, and I had to use the restroom. And they have like one of the cleanest restrooms and nicest visitor centers I've ever been to.
So your private plane didn't have the restroom?
I don't want to get it too. I was traveling with Honke, Dave.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So the restroom normally was very nice, but I was traveling with Honke, and anyway.
Yeah. Well, and if we would have gone to Jackson, then that would have just added prime time to the list too. And so that's the again.
If we did go there, was that who that was on the plane with us? Because man, there was some really loud, like self-centered guy, more self-centered than me, and it was crazy. That was the craziest time ever. So just to dispel any rumors, it is not Lane Kiffin. As much as I would love it
Lane lost last week, so he's clearly off. Matt Campbell's got a losing record. Lance Leipold has lost 3 in a row. Is that right?
Yep.
I think Aranda might be back in the stakes because I think he got a win in. Mike Gundy might be back in, but if you lose too many games this season, you're no longer qualified to be the next head coach in Nebraska, right? That's the determining factor.
It seems to be the way the fan base is going, which kind of would worry me if you're any coach, really. I mean, unless we're going to hire, Saban or somebody like that, then yeah.
Well, he lost 2 weeks ago, Mike.
Well, yeah, but that's only one, and it's Alabama, so it only counts as like a third of a loss. So
that's true.
Yeah, they'll still be the number 1 seed in the college playoffs. Don't worry about it.
Right. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about coaching at some point. But, we've got a season ahead of us, Honke, and we're taking on the first place in the West, fighting Illini of Illinois this weekend. But there's a lot of possibilities out there. The Big Ten West is wide open, right?
Absolutely, yeah. First tweet of the week here, we got Sickos Committee. So speaking of the Big Ten West, one of our members has come up with a 7-way Big Ten West tie scenario with Northwestern winning the division at 4-8 overall, going to the Big Ten title game. We'll have a graphic later today and fully map it out. Yes, ha, 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 yes. And Boomer, you found that graphic.
There it is.
Yeah, that's just a work of art if that happens. I mean, it's the most Big Ten West thing ever, so not out of the realm of possibility the way this season's going, but it's
Boomer, this shows for our listeners not on YouTube. There's a 7-way tie here that results in Northwestern as the Big Ten West champion, which we've all predicted after they beat us in week 0. Everybody in the Big Ten in this scenario finishes 4-5. And let's see, what does Nebraska have to do for this to happen?
Beat Illinois and Wisconsin and lose the other 3 to Minnesota, Michigan, and Iowa.
Okay, that's not impossible to imagine. And then Northwestern, though, what do they have to do?
Well, they can lose to Iowa and Ohio State, which is certainly possible, and then they have
get
to
them to 1-5.
Yeah, then they have to rattle off wins against Minnesota, Purdue, and Illinois to close the season out.
Gotcha. And then the first place Illini, what happens there?
Beat Sparty and lose to everybody else.
Yeah, so everyone ends up with a 4-5 record in the Big Ten, and Northwestern's the one that has a 4-2 record in the Big Ten West. Everyone else is 3-3 or 2. Nebraska would actually be 2-4 in this scenario, but Northwestern with a 4 and what would that be? 4-8 total record.
Yeah.
4-5 in conference, they would end up being the Big Ten West champ. And not that this scenario is likely to happen, but I think it more just indicates what a complete shit show the West is right now.
Well, I'll tell you, Honk. I mean, I'm starting to language. Started to look at some of the bowl projections. I think we've even been in one of them, and that seems ludicrous. But like, they have like 8 or 9 slots for the Big Ten, and like Iowa's like playing on New Year's Day at 6-6 because they got no one else to put up there, right?
Mhm.
After you get past the first kind of 3 in the Big Ten East, and then you throw in potentially in Illinois, everybody else is just, it's pretty ugly out there, right, Boomer? But I mean, we're talking you might have to fill slots with the Pinstripe Bowl and the Motor City Bowl and these others with a bunch of 6-win Big Ten West teams.
Yeah, it's certainly a division nobody wants to win the way everyone's playing. I guess we'll see what Illinois does this week. I mean, if they win, another game or two, that might cement it. But yeah, nobody's certainly going out of their way. I mean, everyone kind of wondered why Purdue wasn't favored against Wisconsin, and boy, we found out why. So yeah, they just can't seem to get over those humps for those kinds of games, and it's just bizarre.
Yeah, and I know, Dave, you and I had that conversation. We were fairly convinced that Nebraska and Iowa was going to be a 5-6 versus 5-6 matchup, with the winner going to a bowl game, which would at least add some intrigue to the
it would add some spice to that game, yeah. For the first time in a while.
And Brian Ferentz is going to get his bonus for the holiday.
An Iowa New Year's Day Bowl would actually make sense, at least for me. I'd watch it because I always need a good nap on New Year's Day. So
it'd be perfect for Christmas, actually, in the afternoon, right after the Christmas meal. Put the Iowa game on, right out, guaranteed. Well, Honk, you also mentioned Malachi Coleman, and so the first commit in the interim head coach Mickey Joseph era happened on Saturday, right?
Yeah, it's obviously that was a big get for Nebraska. We haven't shown this in a little while, but the in-state recruiting graphic here, there's a lot of names, and we've even added a couple for future years onto this list as well. But right now with the 2003 class, Malachi becomes the 6th in-state commitment now with Gunnar Gottschalk, Benjamin Bramer, Sam Sledge, Brock Knutson, Maverick Noonan, and then Malachi. We've also, in the last few weeks, offered Mason Goldman, a 6'6", 240-pounder from Gretna. And then we had a couple of guys that one guy went to Oklahoma and guy went to Iowa State that we offered. So we've offered 9 in-state kids. That's on top of not offering Zane Flores, who the quarterback from Gretna that went down to Oklahoma State. And then I even saw there was like a receiver from Omaha West Side, I think, who has a Texas Tech offer. And there might even be one more guy, and I'm not thinking right now, but that's like, we're talking double-digit guys from the state of Nebraska getting Power 5 offers, not just, it's not just Group of 5 or Division I offers. These are all Power 5 offers. So there's a lot of talent there, and the kids are getting offered. 2024, we already have 5 in-state kids offered there. 2025, they offered Caden Vermas a couple weeks ago from Millard North. So there's 3 kids already offered from 2025, and we even have Deshaun Prince from 2026. So they've been working it. It's one of the things that Mickey, from the day one that he took over the head coaching gig, the interim job, they have just doubled down on recruiting. You would think it would almost be the opposite with him being in an interim role. And they used the bye week last week. He was all over the place. He was down in Arizona. I think he went and watched the game that Dylan Raiola was playing at.
Yeah, and Bobby Newcomb's son, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, they're putting in the miles, and he is setting himself up for, we want to have some success here. We need to win some games still this season. This season is very important, but I think he's still trying to set this program up for success in years to come. And he's not just, sitting on his hands right now while waiting for games and, just getting the season over. He's out there working it.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask Honke and just kind of for our listeners out there, because I know we've talked about this on the side as a group. What do you think that means in the long run, the fact that he's recruiting the way he is and these kids are still committing, like as far as like Mickey being retained on the future coaching staff?
Well, I mean, as Mickey himself said, kids recruit to the school, not the coaches, right? So it doesn't matter if he's here or not. Wait, no, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah.
But no, that was a serious question. I guess I was just trying to
Sure.
open up some dialogue there and figure it out, because it seems like Mickey is going to be part of the package. Is that unheard of?
When you
right?
when you listen to the opening audio with Malachi, the number of times that he mentioned Mickey and the staff specific, and he's been, patient. He didn't have to announce this weekend. He could have pushed it back another week, another month if he wanted to. He could have gone, taken it as far back as he wanted to if he wanted to wait and see what was going to happen. My guess is he feels pretty good about Mickey being around in some capacity. I feel pretty good about Mickey being around in some capacity, really. But Mickey, at least, what he's doing in this role right now is he went out there, and we could have lost all those in-state kids the second that Frost was fired, and to retain all 5 of those guys, and then to bring the top recruit of the whole state on top of that. There was even talk that he was trying to get back into Gretna with Zane Flores even. And that Flores is just so far along with Oklahoma State. And I mean, you're not going to get him flipped. It was kind of like when, who was the kid that was a Wisconsin guy from Southeast?
Williams.
Williams, that, Frost, the Riley era they wouldn't go after Williams. And then Frost, right after his introductory press conference goes and at least offers the kid, but he still ended up going to Wisconsin. So anyways, I think Mickey definitely is, he's planning to stick around to the way that he's acting and working.
Sure. And I think that can clearly be true today. I mean, the question ultimately will be, will it be true, 6 weeks from now? And it's hard to say. I would hate to limit our pool of candidates, because we are going to force anyone who is hired to retain Mickey Joseph. But I do think it's reasonable to, to suggest anyone they should at least interview Mickey and consider him for the recruiting coordinator or wide receiver, because he's a highly respected wide receiver coach too, right? I mean,
that's the thing.
It's a top 5 wide receiver coach. I mean,
that's the thing. It's one of the reasons why I feel more confident than ever about it, is that at the very least, like, forced would almost be the wrong word. I can't imagine any coach feeling forced to have to keep a coach that has all the connections here, is that top 5, receivers coach. The way you mentioned, Dave, has guys in the pros that are, in the top 10 at the position, and then has done what he's done. Really, players are playing for him now. That was my biggest concern. I don't even want to talk record. When Mac and I walked out of that Oklahoma game, and I was like, well, we're going to go 1-11. I couldn't picture this. I didn't know if this team was going to stick around. And when you have a team that's so built off of NIL, and this is all new still, how does a team respond when there are a bunch of transfers and NIL, and are they just going to give up if things get tough? And the way that this coaching staff has refocused the team, and you see the effort there, I can disagree, and we'll get into some of that with the scoring explosion. I can disagree with bits of X's and O's and stuff, but I can't disagree with the effort and what the guys are doing right now. And that's really great to see, because I was really concerned about that about a month ago.
Yeah. I think it was one of the radio shows today mentioned that with the commitment of Malachi Coleman, the recruits for this year's class, their home, the distance between their home and Lincoln is the average is 467 miles, which may sound like a lot, but it's actually the lowest number since 2008 or something like that. It's been a long, long time since we've been able to have something that our recruits are actually averaging under that 500-mile radius, right?
Wow, no, that's great. I hadn't heard that. That's really interesting there. Dave, I did this little collage of tweets of the week, and they're all kind of just in support of Mickey, generally speaking, what Mickey's doing. One of them's from former Husker Zach Potter, and he goes, "We're 3-4 versus 1-6. Mickey and crew are doing a fine job. If you don't see the changes, I'd be curious what you're looking at. Is Mickey the long-term solution? I don't know. I think Mickey and Bush have a future here, though, regardless of what shakes out. I love the emotion." Adam Carricker, he had one about, we still have more football left to play, but when do you think Nebraska will make the final decision on who the next coach will be? And Jim in Minnesota responded, "What if they already have?" Dun, dun, dun. And last one here, Stephen Sipple, article from about a week ago. Trev's a fiery competitor. Yes, it's possible he made Mickey the interim simply because it would give NU the best chance for success, even if it meant potentially making the 80s job a little bit more complicated. Tell me if you're not intrigued. And, I don't know that this makes his job any more complicated. I mean, if us winning football games and getting some things back on the right track, I don't think Trev looks at that as making it any more complicated.
He had to, Boomer, we talked about this right when it happened. He had to know that by choosing Mickey Joseph, that this was a possibility that the fan base could rally behind him, and especially if they won some games. So to Honke's point, I don't know if he didn't expect it or not, but I think Trev has to take a very unemotional evaluation and not let the fan base dictate what his criteria is to evaluate. Is that fair to say?
No, I think so, and that's what part of what an AD does. Otherwise, we could run the program in Twitter polls or something like that. I'm not sure if that would be the best approach to take, but who knows? I mean, heck, Iowa's offense could run by Twitter vote and probably do better. But yeah, I mean, and that is the tough part about this. For the fans, this is an emotional investment for most fans. That's what this is all about, and you tend to get caught up in these sorts of things, whether it's the coach or player XYZ, player from this radius, program doing this, that, or the other thing. And from the athletic director perspective, it is a very business type decision. You're not going to make a huge multi-million-dollar decision based purely off of emotion. You're going to have to put thought and logic into it. And, it could be a possibility where, if fan support makes it easier to make a hire, then that can play a role in it. If it's you want to go in a completely different direction and fan support or whatever it is emotion is a totally different direction, that does make it harder. So I think it just kind of depends what Trev's ultimate plan was. If he knew this was a possibility, and it was, I mean, is he willing to give Mickey a fair shake? It seems like he has been, at least by what he's been saying. And did he have a plan if it would kind of shake out something like this? If we win 6 games, go to a bowl game, what does that do? If we don't win another game here on out, what is his plan? If we win 5 games, what's his plan then? So,
how, I don't know how to ask this question exactly, so humor me, but I mean, how comfortable are you with Trev making a decision that may not please the majority of the fan base, right? I mean, that hopefully he lays out when he does make this announcement how he came to the conclusion, but what if it's someone that isn't immediately going to create the entire fan base to rally around, because it's just different this time around.
That's a possibility. I mean, that's something that could happen. We've talked about, how popular Mickey is among the fan base. And I think to a degree, if it wasn't him, people might be a little annoyed with him, especially if it wasn't one of the splashy name hires.
Still 5 games to go.
He could. And then, some of it is that, we had that hire, rally around the coach guy last time around with Frost, and that didn't pan out. So if Trev can sell it well and explain his rationale and lay out the plan for what this coach wants to do, and the coach can vocalize it, and then whether he retains Joseph, Bush, and everyone else, that can get a lot of buy-in too. So it's going to depend on just what that hire is and how they present themselves.
Yeah, the next 5 games is huge because, I mean, as we alluded to earlier with Leopold or Leipold, Aranda, or you name all the guys, Campbell, they lose a game and now they're off the list, right? Because every game matters. And that's how, we ride this wave of winner, loser, and that's who we're going to go after. Joseph, I don't know that it would be a popular move right now to hire him. I've heard from plenty of people that sit there and say that that's not who they want. Plenty of people have said that on Twitter. All he's won is against Rutgers and Indiana, right? So I think no matter what, Trev has to be ready that whoever he picks, he's going to get that certain amount of backlash, and there's going to be a certain amount of positivity that comes with almost any of the names that I've heard. Pretty much everyone's got some supporters behind them, and then some detractors. There's a negative there's a pro and con to every single coach that we're looking at, and so you can get Urban Meyer, and you're going to get backlash from people. Okay, so there is no home run hire. This isn't 2017 again, where there was only one guy to get, and there's a danger with that. When there's only one guy to get, it eliminates a lot of other really good candidates too. So I keep saying, when I talk about Joseph, I see him around here next year in some capacity, and I always try to keep those 3 words with it. I'm not sitting there. I don't know that he's going to be the head coach, but I can't. It's really hard for me to envision a way that we wouldn't have him around. Just the way that he is really, that team is really getting around him, and the way that he recruits on a different level than what we've been seeing being done here. Former player, all the things that add up, the way that he's taken on a tough situation, and whether he wins or loses right now, as long as that team, as long as he keeps getting those guys, showing up and playing hard every week. I mean, I think that's a great sign for him, finding ways to stick around. And that's on top of the resume that he already has, which is pretty darn impeccable. So, that's where I think that way. And that kind of supports some of those tweets earlier. Now, Boomer said, we're not going to let the Twitter polls run this, but there were some Twitter polls, and we're going to highlight them. I'll start with the Husk guys one, since this one is actually about this. They did a poll today. Who do you want to be the next head coach at Nebraska? Mickey Joseph, Urban Meyer, Dave Aranda, Lance Leipold. And there's well over, I'm sure, 12,000 votes now. This was at 11,000 some votes. But 66% of Twitter was saying Mickey Joseph. Urban Meyer was at second at 19%. Dave Aranda, 11%. And Lance Leipold, I mean, what a lousy job he's done for 3 straight weeks, obviously, at Kansas.
That's right.
He only has 4%. So that's
it's like people forget it's Kansas.
Yeah, it's and lost their starting quarterback too. I mean, that happens. I guess since I have this other poll up, I'll have this one too. This is from No Block No Rock podcast, and here's a good question: Nebraska upsets number 17 Illinois this week in Memorial Stadium. Do we storm the field?
Hell no.
Absolutely yes, or heck no. And right now, 67% say heck no, and 33% say absolutely yes. So. Husker Nation, we are a blue blood. We do not storm the field for number 17 Illinois.
I'd like to know the age demographics for the yeses and nos, because I'm guessing all the yeses, the hell yeses, are kids that are probably still in college or I
don't have an issue
of
with
college
it.
age.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, we haven't beaten a ranked team in how many years ago?
I guess we stormed the field for Michigan State. Is that fair to say, Honke?
That would probably say, yeah.
They're 5th, I believe, when we beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But what would be the threshold? Is there a certain number? It has to be inside the top 10.
I'd say.
Yeah, I said after the Oklahoma game, we should storm it after every win if we get another one this year. So I consider myself as blue blood traditionalist as anyone. I'm like, screw it, man. If we get a win and the fans have a chance to be happy and run around and do something, don't be Tennessee fans and throw it in the river. But take down some goalposts and then we'll
the Platte's not that deep, so
we'll do a GoFundMe page, to buy them back.
Big Salt Creek. I don't know how far the thing would float, Mary, but well, speaking of Tennessee, I mean, they've definitely been kind of the darlings of college football the last week and a half now, because they did beat Alabama at home and had a wonderful celebration that someday we're going to do the same thing against somebody. And Josh Heupel really has them rolling, and they've got Georgia coming up. They've got Kentucky this week, though, and Mark Stoops is a name that's kind of resurfaced in our coaching staff, so we'll see where that goes. We'll break down some of those games in the Betcast. But, I mean, which college football teams have impressed you the most this year, Honke?
Yeah, I mean, we have to use this graphic. Graphic designer Swobes created it. Which college football teams has impressed you the most? And there's.
Let's see what we got here. So we've got
TCU's in the background. I think Martinez is there, and then the coach we're going to be playing, Bielema up here in the top left, Illinois. Yep. I actually, just because I've watched them probably more than any of the other teams, Illinois has impressed me overall. Just their defense has been really solid, really good. And then they have a strong running game, and I think their field goal kickers made his last 8 or 9 kicks. So I mean, they're a pretty complete team, and I got to give it to them there. I mean, what's funny is I've seen Iowa talk about how they've had really bad offensive performances, but they played nothing but top defenses too. You do have to say that right now Iowa's played against top defenses, although I think that's reflective on each of those defenses that they got to play Iowa too. It helped. In Illinois' case, it's not that they've played stellar offenses either. In fact, Nebraska might be as high-powered of an offense as Illinois will have seen up to this point. I don't think they're going to allow Trey Palmer to run around, with no one around him for 20 yards. But
let's find out.
Who knows? We'll find out. But I'll say, just to answer that question there, I think Illinois maybe impressed me as much as anybody.
Rob?
Where's that list again? Can I see that list again?
Well, we don't have a list.
Doesn't
We
have
just
to be
have
a
a-
list.
I thought,
Whatever you like, Rob.
team
You
that's
You can throw
impressed.
out. So let me run down some other names
Yeah,
here.
I mean,
USC is undefeated still.
No,
don't-
USC
Yeah,
lost,
they have a
didn't they?
loss.
They
Yeah,
lost
they
to
lost
Utah.
to Utah.
They
lost to
lost.
Utah. You're right. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
so
Oregon.
I'll take this a
Oregon
little
is-
bit. I'll take this a little different direction on that one because I mean, college football. It's hard for me to like be like, oh wow, that team's really impressing me this year because there's I do watch a lot of the Alabama games by force of nature, but the team that I think that has impressed me the most with how bad they've been is Notre Dame. I'll just take it in that direction. Like I really thought that they'd be a lot better based off of their recruiting class and everything. And it doesn't seem like it gets talked about enough in the national media or anywhere, but Notre Dame has been complete trash this year. And it's almost, for me, it's been most impressive because I actually want to watch them more just to see how bad they are. So
well, maybe Brian Kelly is not that bad of a coach.
maybe it could be, which, yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's just been a dumpster fire over there. And I know we have no room to talk as Nebraska fans, whatever, but why not both? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, both can be true. So I would say that it's impressive because I really had no idea that Notre Dame could be that bad. And I'm really impressed with how bad they are.
All right. Boomer.
Yeah, Illinois would definitely be one just because of what you usually have to work with in Illinois. There's certainly not a top flight recruiting hotbed in the Big Ten, especially. And I'd have to say TCU is actually just week after week, just being 7-0 and playing good competition and actually being down in all of these games and finding ways to rally and come back against. But Oklahoma State and who was it 2 weeks ago? They rallied and won. It's just they do it week after week, it seems, and then they obliterated Oklahoma.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive what the Horned Frogs are doing down there. So I was a little surprised as good as they were. And Syracuse is another one that I didn't.
Yeah,
expect
I was going to mention that even with the loss.
6-1. Yeah, and they could have won that game. Refereeing is questionable here and there. Make of it what you would, but yeah, I surprised Syracuse is competitive and almost had the ACC have somebody else of interest other than Clemson, but we know we can't have that. So
no.
TCU is interesting though. I mean, Dugan, obviously the quarterback from Council Bluffs, he's a gamer. I mean, he's just the guy. They're never out of it with him. And then defensively, I mean, I didn't pay a lot of attention to him last year, but was O'Shawn their best player, and they lost him? Over the offseason? Maybe he wasn't their best player. I don't know, but he was considered the top list. Yeah, he was considered the top transfer portal guy or one of them, and we got him. So they're going into the season already having lost one of their best players, and for them to do what they've done up to this point, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of interesting storylines out there. The ACC. Wake Forest is better than expected. Maybe Duke routed Miami this week. That's surprising. Big 12 is super competitive and interesting. Oh, Boomer, go ahead.
I just say 8 turnovers will do that in a game if you're Miami.
Yeah.
So,
there's a team that was preseason top 10 with Crystal Ball's first year, and
there was some stat I saw about A&M where they started in the top 6 and there's only been it's like only 4 or 5 teams like in history that started the year in the top 6. And if they end up like with a losing record, not going to a bowl, like that's so rare to have that kind of free fall. And that's, roughly where they're at right now. I think they're 3-4 and not doing great. Roger Dodger there, he posted something about Tennessee. I think that's a great pick too. I mean, right now they are.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think they thought that they were going to have a decent team this year, but obviously what they're doing is beyond anyone's thoughts there.
Yeah, A&M's free fall is the kind of thing
and
millions of Ireland you can buy. So.
That's like their free fall is like Nebraska-esque. Would you say?
I mean, I don't.
Sorry, sometimes I just like to rip on ourselves because because somebody's going to do it eventually. So,
I mean, we'll see how far A&M falls, right? There's still games to be played here, right? But yeah, I mean they're struggling, and Jimbo has not really produced the quarterback that you'd expect, right? To get that team turned around, and we'll see. But I don't think they're going to fire him.
Did you give yours, Dave? Who do you think was the most impressive so far?
I mean, I guess just from a surprise standpoint, Tennessee probably is it. But if you want to really say who's most impressive, I do think Ohio State might have the best unit in college football in their offense. It's pretty complete, and and can score on most teams, I would think. So maybe I would take Ohio State still. That Notre Dame loss, or excuse me, the Notre Dame win, that feels like a loss because they only won by like 20 points in week one. Ever since then, they just really rolled, right? And not really having much competition there. So
Dave, how about you're just talking about Ohio State's offense and what they've done. What about Iowa's defense, where for the longest time we were talking about last year, they never gave up more than 25 points. Very impressive stat. And then they got all the way to the championship game last year. They lose 42-3 to Michigan. And if you if you're a Hawkeye fan right now and you're looking at the 7 games this year, and I think the last 2 of last season, they're 3-4 here. Plus they lost their last 2 games, the bowl game, and they've given up 42 points. They've now given up 50 some points, although I think the offense probably, there's at least a pick 6 in there. But still, the defense they got ran over by Michigan this year. So are there chinks even on the good side of the ball there?
Honke, you could say that Iowa fans say that they're not playing complementary football with their defense and offense.
How many times did Ohio State get the ball inside the 35? It was like 5 times, wasn't it? It'd be the Bears, and you're going to give up some points.
Dave can attest to this. I was having a discussion with our table on Saturday, and it was right when the pick 6 happened, and it was I was literally like, I was explaining what complementary football meant for Nebraska, which is something I might get to in a little bit here. But I was explaining what it would mean for us. I'm like right now, Iowa shouldn't be throwing the ball in the end zone, throwing a pick 6 or something, and he did it. And like bam, 2 seconds later,
threw it.
I'm like, well, that's not playing complementary football.
Clairvoyant.
Well, I feel bad for them too, because I had to drive to go pick up my son. It's about an hour there, an hour back, and I was listening to the Iowa game on the radio. And it was like the Fox broadcast. And the guy announcing the game was an Iowa alum. I don't even remember who it was, but he was an Iowa alum. And he's sitting there and he's talking and he's just like, okay, I don't understand. Like, he's like, this, I feel bad for every single one of the guys on the defensive side of the ball on this team.
The offense.
They're just saying, he's like, honestly, and Honke kept texting, like, what's the upside? What's the upside? Like the whole, the whole time. And the guy on the radio was like, seriously? He's like, a completed pass would be an upside right now. Like, he's like, oh, he's got a guy wide open on the sideline and he throws it 10 feet over his head and out of bounds. Again, what's the upside? Like, the radio guy who's an Iowa alum is saying this on the radio.
And for Redcasters that didn't know what that was in reference to, that was Brian Ferentz, their offensive coordinator, Kirk's son, at a press conference a week ago being asked about benching Petrus, and he said, nah, what's the upside? And that has gotten a lot of.
They were like, how bad do the backup quarterbacks have to be that you don't see an upside in benching him?
They did actually add the or today to their depth chart. So Jacob Padilla. No, that's a writer for
that's
Jacob. His last name is Padilla.
Nebraska, yes.
Same name though. Last name is now number 1 with Petrus. But I did see where Iowa has not scored an offensive touchdown in 28 possessions.
Jeez.
It's a long stretch there.
It takes effort, really. You'd almost think.
You know what,
and the defense.
I have not scored a touchdown in 28 possessions.
It's true. The Iowa defense has scored 3 touchdowns in Big Ten play, and the Iowa offense has scored 3 touchdowns in Big Ten play.
Well, it's very complimentary, I guess, in a way. There's that.
And we'll still probably lose to them, right, guys?
Misery loves company. We knocked their starting quarterback all year, so that they probably will change him before we play him, and then that backup will go out and have a great game, of course. So,
yep.
Well, I may have a recipe for beating Iowa this year, but I'm going to wait until the week of Iowa to talk about it. So,
all right, good. That's, all right, Honk. Are we ready to put on our scarlet-colored glasses?
Let's go for it.
All right, let's. Or we're gonna do scoring explosion. Sure.
Yeah. That was scarlet-colored glasses. So
that was colored glasses. We're taking off those glasses, and we're gonna talk offense with our scoring explosion segment. And Honke, we had 43 points last game out. I don't know what we're expecting against Illinois, but we may need to establish a running game this time around. What do you think?
Yeah, that's the tweets of the week that I'm using for for scoring explosion here is a couple of photos of pick six previews. He did a photo of shot of the Philadelphia Eagles getting a first down, and they did this a number of times. They basically got almost into like a victory formation, like goal line, quarterback under center, and they just plowed ahead and got a yard. And he said the Big Ten likes this, thumbs up. And then next to that is a tweet that I sent out, and it was a photo of this is Michigan against Penn State, and it was from above, and they have 3 tight ends on the line, 8 guys along the line, and it's just Big Ten football summed up in one play, and just the formation under center, and this is how they went out and they get a yard. That's Big Ten football. Nebraska is the absolute opposite of that right now. We are not Big Ten football in the sense of we don't really even make an effort much to run the ball anymore now. And I've said that from the first week against Northwestern. That's not a recipe for success, and I still don't think it's a recipe for success, despite having a lot of passing yards and even scoring some points, but a lot of passing yards to Palmer, which I'm happy to see. I think Palmer's done phenomenal, but we have to find a way to get a running game if we're going to have any success this week against Illinois or any of those other 4 games.
Yeah, that's hard to argue, right, Boomer? I mean, the pass happiness of Whipple was something that we talked about in the off season, and it has played itself out.
Yeah, it's definitely manifested itself. I mean, we've all been recipients of the Honke text when it's 4th and 1 and we're in the shotgun and throw a pass, and that doesn't seem to be a grand recipe for success in the Big Ten, and it we knew that's probably likely, and we were going to get, and we certainly have got it, and it has been kind of tough to see just the running back struggles. I mean, Grant had such a good start to the season. Yeah, and granted that wasn't against Big Ten type defenses and lines, but it's really just struggled these last couple of weeks to get anything consistent going with that. That's been really kind of disappointing.
So Rob, with the bye week, do you hold out any hope that Mickey actually kind of told Whip like, hey, let's rediscover some of those lost pages in the playbook from the Scott Frost era that worked relatively well in kind of weeks 2 and 3, and maybe get Anthony Grant on track?
So I'm going to ask a quick question just because during the week.
But you're going to answer my question with a question.
Well, just real quick because it'll help me. But because during the bye week, I kind of took a bye week myself too, and I stepped away from everything. How are we looking on the injury front on the offensive line? Are some of our guys coming back this week? Because I feel like the most success that we had in the running game, like in the Indiana, we were going like 7 deep or 7 or 8 deep on the offensive line or something like that. I think during that week. Am I wrong, Honke? And it felt like, remember at the end of the game, like we were really feeding Grant a lot and he closed it out. But it's going to be tough. I mean, I hope he makes some adjustments. I do. And it's ironic because I was like oh, wow, Whipple, he's going to have a great passing game. We've got the wide receivers to do it. We got the guy recruiting the wide receivers to do it, like with Mickey. But now I'm just like, okay, I didn't expect him. I really didn't expect him to just not run the ball at all. Not at all. And it's, yeah, I would like to see a run game. I sure hope they insert a run game, especially against Illinois, because you're going to have to be balanced. Their defensive backs are some of the best in the Big Ten. So,
yeah, I'd like to see, we mentioned like that we didn't know that we'd get this, or we thought that we would get this out of Whipple. I didn't think we'd get this because I just assumed we'd have the counterbalance of Whipple and Frost for, up until at least if anything was going to happen where you're firing somebody, it's going to happen in November, right? So I wouldn't have expected that yet at this point. The way that it's turned out, now that it's, this is officially Whipple's offense. I mean, we're throwing the ball like it's Whipple's offense. And, we have to, we talked about complementary football a little bit earlier. Complementary football is that on defense, we have struggled on defense. And just like running the ball 20 times or 23 times and throwing it 31 times, whatever it was, that's not a recipe for success. Well, giving up 101 plays to the other team isn't a recipe for success either. And that's what Purdue did. And, I want to highlight a very specific moment. This is a situational moment of the Purdue game, is that with 5.5 minutes left in the first half, they score a touchdown. They're up 17-10 on us. They kick the ball off to us. And with the group that I'm sitting with, I don't care at that point about scoring. Scoring is not the most important thing to me at that very moment. What's important is that we have 5.5 minutes left in the first half. We need to get into half down 7 at worst and take up 5.5 minutes. Don't put the defense back on the field. Play complementary football. That means instead of saying we need to get a touchdown, what we need to get is 3.5 yards. If you get 3.5 yards and you do it 3 times, you get a first down. If you get 2 first downs, maybe 3 tops, you've just taken 5.5 minutes off the clock. This is essentially what Purdue did to us at the end of the game when they got the ball with 6 minutes. They just took enough time off the clock and ran it out. We needed to do that at the end. Instead, we started to get pass happy. We throw a bad interception. I'm not even going to blame Whipple. There was a really bad throw by Casey, and he's heard enough of that now, so I'm not going to pile on it anymore. But it was a bad interception on the first play, I think it was. So right away, we give them an extra possession. Our defense is back there on the field. They score a touchdown. Now we're down 2 touchdowns. They get the ball. We get the ball back. We go 3 and out. Boom, boom, boom. And we're punting to them, and they get the ball again. Another possession. We actually held them. They get a field goal with enough time for us to go right down the field on them, of all things, running the ball with a QB snap or sneak and a QB scramble and a draw. And then we kick a field goal. And out of all that effort, we end up going into half down 2 touchdowns, 27-13, instead of it being 17-10. That's not complementary football because we're going to get the ball first in the second half. So somewhere along the line, we have to, it's a game management thing too, of like, we have to understand the situation where we're at, and being able to run the football does nothing more than just, if we can just run some clock there, that's important. But we're still kind of in a mode where we're getting up to the line quick. And sometimes we're running speed offenses in tempo, and it's like, man, we need to slow things down.
Yeah. I mean, you've laid out a really good scenario there of why we should be doing something a little bit different, especially with some of the limitations we may have. And 3.5 yards a pop doesn't sound impossible to get, at least for a couple. I don't know if you dream out the whole 5 minutes there, but it would have made things more difficult. And there's other ways to do that, right, Boomer? I mean, we should be able to try to run the ball, be more creative, but there could be a more controlled passing game in that situation. If Whipple insists to throw the ball, where maybe you can throw a little shorter instead of trying to YOLO bomb it every single time.
Well, if they're going to leave Palmer uncovered, you might as well keep doing that. But,
maybe that was a thought process.
Yeah. But, I guess that is going to raise a question. Now, do you think it's Whipple just doesn't want to do this, or do you think he thinks we just can't do it very well, and he doesn't really have a choice? I don't know. What do you guys think on that? I mean,
No.
And then I guess the next question, then why isn't Mickey saying, hey, do this? I mean,
that's one of the reasons. It's something I'm actually hoping for to come out of the bye week, to be honest with you. It really is. I don't know how realistic that is, but it's something I'm hoping for. I want to show this video here because this is something somebody mentioned this. This is I'm going to put this on loop here. We won't do a full breakdown of this play, but this is ends up being the scramble that Casey goes up and gets 30 some yards here at the end of the second quarter. But what you really want to focus on, it's going to start over here again. Focus on the 2 defensive ends. These guys, the 2 defensive ends, are coming so hard. I mean, if you ever want to hear about pinning your ears back, these guys couldn't care less about any run game or anything, and they both beat our tackles, right? To the extent that it looks so bad, it's like, wow, what is wrong with our tackles? They're playing so badly. I look at this a little differently. What are we doing offensively that is just flat out giving it away what we're doing? I mean, that they're coming so hard. They don't care about anything other than getting as deep as they can in the backfield and getting to the quarterback. Now, Rob has made the statement a number of times that Whipple's offense is all about taking what the defense gives you. What Casey does here, and I don't do the entire play here, but if he would keep running, it goes for about 30 yards. That's what the defense is giving us a lot of times right now. Step up. I was frustrated against Oklahoma. There were plays where he could step up and he wouldn't step up into the pocket and run. The play that preceded this was the Ramir Johnson draw. Holy smokes. That thing, I mean, there's times where the defense is just begging to be ran right up the gut on us, and they're coming so hard. So yes, did both of our tackles whiff here? Did both of our tackles not make the block? Absolutely. But it is all the harder when the defense is coming as absolutely hard as they are. I mean, they are pinned their ears back because they have no concern, no worries whatsoever about a run game. And we've got to be able to counter that. And I even and there's a lot of things that can help give a tell here. You know, Dave, you and I were talking this weekend,
Right.
And I focused. All I did was take Turner Corcoran, and I had mentioned it a couple weeks on Twitter a couple weeks ago. There was a 3-play series against Rutgers where he had his hand in the turf, a 3-point stance for 2 straight plays, and then he got in a 2-point stance, and it just looked weird to me for a second. Like, why are we lining up? Why are we lining up in different stances? And it was a run, pass. And I kind of thought, I'm going to wait a game or two, but I think I'm just going to chart every play he does and just see what happens. And this was the game I did it. And he did 31 plays in a 2-point stance. So standing up, a 2-point stance. He did 22 plays in a 3-point stance, hand in the turf, kind of a more traditional run blocking alignment, so to speak. Out of those 31 2-point stances, we threw it 28 times. We ran it 3. When he lined up in a 3-point stance 22 times, we ran it 15 times and only had 7 passes. If I'm a defender and I look at that, I mean, if I'm just looking, oh, he's standing up. I mean, I'm all of a sudden, if nothing else, I'm pinning my ears back a little bit more. I'm going to attack because it looks like you're going to be in a pass set. And in fact, I said that they had 28 passes out of that. Technically, actually, they only had 27 passes because one of but one of them that they called is Casey ending up scrambling up the middle. Right. So, hey, guys standing up in a 2-point stance, we're going to come as hard as we can. And if we're not willing to take what they give us, which is right behind them, they're not playing containment. They're not playing any of that. Ramir Johnson didn't get touched for 17 yards. Do that enough times. Do a couple of draws if they're coming that hard. Casey, you've got to be willing to run that ball up the gut. You do that a couple of times, and you know what you'll start to see? Them, they can't rush that hard anymore. They have to pull off. Now, if they pull off, the likelihood of them running around our offensive tackles and making them look so silly probably isn't going to be as good either if they can't just pin their ears back and go. So it's a two-way street there. I come off as a defender of the O-line, and look, they've had their problems. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's not that, but it's just you've got to be able to do both. Right now, it's never going to be a recipe for success for us to be running the ball 35% of the game and throwing Honke, 65%.
Whipple's been a coach for 40 years. He's forgotten more football than most people have ever learned, right? I mean,
every one of these coaches
that is what you've just described makes total sense. And it's frustrating that, I mean, that's pretty basic stuff there, right? I mean, like when you get too predictable, the defense is going to take advantage of that. So we're going to see if they make some changes with this bye week. Rob?
Well, it was just funny because it was driving me crazy because that whole whites and the knuckles thing was like, I'm like, God, where have I heard? Like, I've heard it before, but I was trying to think it was like a pop culture reference. It was that movie Invincible with Marky Mark or whatever when he's in that, right? And he's the guy. Oh, yeah, and there's literally a point where like the lineman pulls him over and he's like yelling, he's like, see my knuckles when they're white, I'm doing this. When they're this, I'm doing this. And then of course the game comes and he gets past some blitzes and makes a sack or whatever. And I'm like, God, it is so obvious that they're even just sticking it out there for everybody to see in like a Disney movie of all things. Right? Like,
well, Dave, I had mentioned to you that, I sent that tweet out like 2 weeks ago and I almost felt bad doing it because I'm like, not because I felt like I was finding something. My goodness, these coaches that have all forgotten way more than I ever know. They know this. I'm not giving away any secrets here, but I almost felt bad tweeting it out because look, I coach, but I did it. A couple decades ago, I was coaching. I'm old school. I don't know what all these young whippersnappers are doing today. And so, who am I to say that a guy shouldn't go from 2 to 3 point stances? But I just kind of asked the question on Twitter a couple weeks ago based off of 3 plays. I'm like, is this a tell? Maybe I'm a dinosaur, but is this a tell?
I'm a caveman.
I'm just a caveman. I'm just a podcaster, right? Rob Zaska responded to it, and his response was, "Hell yeah, it's a tell." And, I've got a good buddy of mine from the fraternity days. He's been an offensive line coach for over 2 decades in high schools in California and on the East Coast. And I was texting with him about it. And his response, he goes, I hate the 2 point stance. That's number one. But he goes, I don't tell a player that he can't do it. But what I do tell him is whatever you're going to do, you've got to stick with it on every play then. You're not going to be down one, up one, down one, up one. If you're going to do 2-point stance, you're going to do that for every single play. And so that's an offensive line coach telling me that. Rob Zaska says it's a tell. And then Adam Carricker started responding to him about how stupid offensive linemen were. And then that was a funny little tweet back and forth. But it's one of those things where it's hard enough. It's hard enough in football to, get the X's and O's right. If the defense knows or thinks they know what you're doing. I mean, Dave, you guys are going to do the Betcast before we're done. And you'll talk about if you can win 60% or 55% of your bets. I mean, there's certain percentages where that's good. If you feel like on 70% of the time defensively, you feel like you can almost call the shot, like I know what they're going to do, and I can go that much harder. I'm going to take that much more of a risk because I think the reward's going to be there. I'm going to get to the quarterback because I think he's going to be drop back and throwing. That's a problem. And if 31 times you're in a 2-point stance and 28 of them you're throwing,
Yeah. Honke, can you have some fun with this just to kind of wrap it up? Can you bring the video back up?
Sure.
So we're seeing these Purdue defensive ends come at Lutovsky and Corcoran, and they get to Casey, and I'm still trying to figure out how in the heck did these guys not tackle him? They literally
ran into each other.
They ran into each other, thankfully. Yeah.
I mean, the first guy, how does he not? It doesn't look like Casey even gets touched somehow.
Momentum, Dave. It's momentum.
I mean,
they couldn't believe that they both had an opportunity. I think they went for the high five instead of the sack.
I know.
That's what that looked like.
And watching this too, I mean, I don't want to come down hard on Casey here either. The guy's been beat up. And there's been times where guys have absolutely whiffed right there. The right tackle gets swam. I mean, so there's poor technique in cases too. I'm just holistically, it's my thing that I did a couple of weeks ago with how do we just make things simpler sometimes? Sometimes simpler is having more balance might make them not be so aggressive off the line. How you align, how you do your alignments, simplifying blocking schemes. There's a lot of things you can do to just make things simpler. And right now, I would get things about as simple as you can. But it does, at the end of the day, the discussion we had with our buddy Jack about, if you're throwing the ball and that's how you're scoring, you need to throw it to score. I'll say the same thing with 5.5 minutes left in the first half. We didn't need to score right then. What we needed to do was get into halftime down 7 points. That was more important than anything. And being aggressive ended up getting us down 2 touchdowns going into half instead of 1. So that's the complementary football. That's playing smart. It's running clock when you need to run clock. And running the football is not going to be a bad thing in this conference. Especially, we haven't even gotten into bad weather yet.
Yep, it's true.
I will say this. I just want all Redcasters to know Honke works on campus. So if you see him walking around, he is not a candidate for the head coaching job. I just want everyone to know that.
No.
Well, if Travis hiring internally, he might be.
Maybe.
Maybe he's Matt Rhule for all we know. It's hard to tell.
We've never seen him in the same room together. It would make some sense.
It's true.
Just the same meme.
All right, guys. Well, nice offensive breakdown. Are we ready to talk defense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's throw the bones and talk all things Husker defense and see if Bill Busch can get back on the right track. He had 2 great outings there, but then a little bit of a step back versus Purdue. Honke, what are we kind of expecting against Illinois, who is definitely likes to run first with Chase Brown? I think he might be leading the country in rushing right now.
Yeah, Brown, he's just awesome to watch. Great runner. And I don't know the name, but I was just even reading today on Twitter that I think one of their backup running backs might be back for this game, who must have been out for a couple of weeks. So, they might even be getting a little bit of depth added there. Look, this is Brett Bielema's offense. And, this is the guy that likes to line up with when he was with Wisconsin. I remember 9 offensive linemen on the field against us.
Yeah.
And Illinois has done that at times too, under him here against us last year. And it's going to be a bring your lunch pail physical game. And they're going to take as much time off that clock. Think about this for a second. If we want to be an explosive offense against them that scores in 3 plays in 1 minute, if that's what we think we can be and what we want to be, then Illinois is going to be like, okay, well, we'll just find a way to take 14 minutes off the clock every quarter. And we're going to limit possessions. and we're probably gonna, we're gonna beat you up, and we're gonna get 3.5 yards of play. We're gonna beat you up. We're gonna get 101 plays. We're gonna score a touchdown on every one of our possessions. We're gonna wear on you. You might score a touchdown here or there, but then we're gonna get ours on a couple of possessions, and once we get a little bit of a lead on you, you're not gonna be able to come back. So we've got to be able to find a way to get off the field defensively, take our lunch pail and get off the field on a couple of these series, and then offensively, I mean, we've got to find a way to play complementary football, I think.
Yeah. Boomer, are you concerned about some potential injuries affecting our performance here? We have likely, looks like Heinrich is out for the rest of the year now, so a little thin there at that linebacker position.
Well, yeah, I think you have to be. I mean, if you just look at last week against Purdue, they're not a team known for being a stellar running team. And they were down to their, third-string walk-on freshman running back came in and looked like an all-star, or looked like a all-conference running back against us.
He did get 100 yards this week against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like he was,
point taken.
Yeah, it wasn't expected to be that good, and he was. And if we're going to go up against a team that is dedicated to run the ball, we know what Bielema likes to do. If he thinks he can run it at you, and he will, and he'll keep doing it, that is a concern. And then, like Honke said, with the clock management, I think Illinois currently is number 2 in time of possession in the country, just a little behind Air Force. Their average possession in the games, 58% of the time they have the ball.
Wow.
Last week it was 66.7, or excuse me, their last game. So they get the ball, they will keep it, and dare you to stop them and try to get the ball back. And that's been one of their big recipes for success, just not letting you have it. Unless you're Iowa, you can't really score without the ball. And that's going to be a challenge. So,
Rob, are you hoping for maybe, some run blitzes or something? I mean, what else would you do to potentially try to stop the Illinois run attack?
I don't know, because it's funny that you asked that too, because it's Illinois is one of those teams where it's like they only convert 38% of their third downs, right? So we're like, okay, get them to third down, but they complete over 60% of their fourth downs. So I mean, it's like you get them into fourth and short, and they're probably going to go for it and convert it, right? But I mean, you want to talk about balance, and Honke's probably drooling over this. They basically are 216 yards passing and 200 yards rushing every single game. So it's like, where do you stop them, right? Like, I mean, their defense is going to keep their opponents under 230 yards. I think their opponents average like 220 yards a game or something.
Yeah. Boom. So, really quick, do we know they're? I mean, I know if we're talking defense on our side, but they're like, what are they ranked overall defensively? It's pretty high, right? It's like
they're usually 1 or 2 in most categories. They're very high.
I mean,
they're just behind Georgia in scoring defense. So that's promising.
I mean, so it's gonna be tough. I mean, they're basically Nebraska's gonna have to come out and just. I mean, they're going to have to play their tails off. I was trying to keep the language clean for you, Dave, but they're going to have to play their tails off in this game on defense and play their best game of the season, I think, because Illinois' offense is just very well balanced.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be tough.
I think that we have talent at positions that maybe Illinois hasn't seen a lot of this year. So I think we have guys that can take the top off them. I think Grant's a hell of a running back. I'm not sure how the health right now of Irvin, but hopefully he's back. And we did get to see Ramir even a little bit in the last game. So we've got some talent there. But at the end of the day, we've got to do more and be more creative against this team than if we're just going to line up in a pocket and try to throw the ball out of the pocket. They will get pressure all over this offensive line and we'll be in trouble. Now, what I will say here, Dave, is I talked about all those 2-point stance and 3-point stance things. When those rare times that we did something different, if we lined up in a 2-point stance, if Corcoran did, and we ran it, we had a lot of success on those plays. If we threw the ball out of the 3-point stance when it looked like we were in a run set, and what that's telling me is that the visual things, the pre-snap things, if they look at us and they go, "Oh, it's going to be a run," and then we throw it out of that deception, we've had some success out of those plays. Those are the ones where you're doing a delayed draw out of what looks like a pass set. It's the one where you're in a run set and you do a little play action rollout. We're going to have to be more creative, and I think. I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record. I have no ability to say we're going to do this or not, but we've got to be able to get Casey's legs more involved, and we'll find out.
I definitely want to track this, and so if it does come out that we have a little bit more diversity on how that plays out with the 2-point, 3-point stance that we can say the Redcast gets results, obviously.
Well, and from a defensive standpoint, though, Honke, too. I mean, what about like blitzing packages, or what can Bush? Do you think this bye week? Hey, Mickey's undefeated coming out of bye weeks right now. So I mean, he's 1-0. Yeah, thank you. But so what from a defensive standpoint, though, and with Bush with an extra week, in there to game plan for this and everything. I mean, do we see more blitz packages? Do we see, like we even talked about, like against Rutgers, right? It was like the first time we'd seen some of these guys on the field at the same time together, right? Like, are we going to see more of that? I mean, because our corners have not had the best showings in the last few games. So how are we gonna balance that?
I mean, number one, you've got to earn the right to blitz. So if we don't get stops on first and second down and they're in third and shorts, then short of run blitzing. Now there are run blitzes you can do, and we might get creative on first and second downs with some run blitzes, and that would be a good idea. If he can pick and choose the right times to do that, we've got to be stout against the run, because if we're not, it's a moot point what blitz we're going to run when it's 3rd and 1 and they put 9 guys on the offensive line, and that is exactly what Bielema will do. He'll put 4 tight ends out there, or he'll put 3 offensive tackles, or whatever it is. Right? He will find a way to get unbalanced and do whatever it takes, and he will play Big Ten football and just run over you. So we've got to be able to hold our own, and we're also going to have to do that to get off the field. We can't be getting in these 101 play games with these guys. But Tommy DeVito, their quarterback, I mean, he's impressive there. And I was looking up his stats here, and they just came off 25 of 32 efficient against Minnesota, 252 yards, 1 touchdown. Completed the ball to 6 different receivers, and 4 of the receivers had between 53 and 62 yards. So, I mean, it was spread around, guys that had 3, 7, and 9 catches. So, they have an offense there that, they're going to run the ball, and specifically with Brown there, he ran 41 times for 180 yards. So I always love it. With our guys, when we have a good runner, you got to be careful. You can't give them 20 carries, or, you get into 22 carries and boy, you're going to have to give them an ice bath or whatever. We've heard that for years. Right. And meanwhile, we'd go up against Jonathan Taylor at Wisconsin. They just, the hell with it. Getting 38 carries, 39, here's Brown running it 41 times.
Hey, Honke, with since you have the stat sheet out there, Illinois is Juice Williams. He's still
he was their number wise. Yeah, Isaiah Williams is their number one receiver from that game against Minnesota. He had 9 catches for 62 yards.
Okay, and then their tight end, the guy that transferred back in from Florida or whatever.
Would that be Riemann? Maybe 89.
No, it was I thought his name was Ford. Maybe.
Are you talking about Bryant? Is that who I'm? Hold on, am I looking?
That wouldn't be. There's no other tight end numbers because the position numbers were 1.
There is a Ford on the team, but he didn't have any receptions in that game.
Okay. Yeah, he was a big 4-star guy.
Bryant was I don't know his first name. Pat Bryant was the second top receiver in that game. He had 58 yards. Ben Hightower had 55, and then C. Brown, I guess Chase Brown had 53 yards. So they spread the ball around a lot. To at least 4 different receivers were, basically around the same amount of yards. Same amount of receptions.
They are a complete team. They're a complete team. Now Rob said earlier I would drool over the balance. I hate the word balance. I'm not a balance guy. Run the damn ball and just keep running it, right? But they do. They have balance, and they are a balanced team all around. Their defense being good, their offense being efficient there, and they can run and they can throw. And then their special teams, like I said, I think their kickers made his last 7 or 8 or 9 field goals in a row was the stat I heard, during the Iowa game. And that was a game they won 9-6, right? I mean, they won an ugly game kicking field goals. So they're going to find ways to score points one way or the other. And they're going to find ways to try to keep us from scoring points. I do not see, I will be blown away if we come, and I'll be happy here. Let me be very clear. I'll be happy. But if we come back next week and we talk about, Palmer having 200 yards receiving again, and he's just running down the field uncovered with 20 yards between him and anybody, God bless us. Throw that every single time you can, right? Although I think there's some fool's gold with that too. That I can't believe what Purdue was doing in some cases. Everybody think they were taking some other risk, I guess. But holy smokes! I mean, I don't see him being open like that again against Illinois. If he is,
yep.
Well, but no one's gotten open like that against Illinois all year yet. So I'll say it that way.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Nice little breakdown there of what we're looking forward to versus Illinois. Honke, anything else before you want to get your parting shot in?
Nope. All good.
Fire away.
This one's quick. Just want to say NU volleyball #1 in the country today. So that's they're back up to that spot. Congratulations. Wednesday night, Big Ten Network at 8 p.m. They are at Wisconsin. They have lost 8 straight times to Wisconsin. So this is a huge game for Husker volleyball. Can't wait to watch that one. Number 5, Wisconsin. So be watching that. Go girls. GBR. Take it out. Betcast. Where the hell is that video?
The Betcast Picks of the Week. The Betcast Picks of the Week.
So good, we got to play it twice.
Played it twice.
We took a week off, so I don't know if...
And really, my bets didn't suffer anymore for it, so yeah, it's just as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually have a new strategy, so that's...
Oh, I can't wait to hear this, Rob.
Yes,
Please go ahead.
So every week...
Will you be doing research now, finally?
Listen, man. Every week, Honke's wife has some office pool with like 10 games on it where she sends it to me. His wife, Kathy, she sends it to me and says, "What do you think of this?" And I'm like, halftime, I'm like, well, I'm not sure about this one. And it's all point spreads. But I've been taking it and I've been just going straight money line with every single one of her picks and then putting together like different parlays and round robins and everything like that on it. And she's winning like 7-8 of those matchups every single week and take it to the bank. Kathy Honke.
Who would have known? Kathy Honke is actually the best gambler.
She's got me over. She's actually got me. What is it? In the red now, or in the black? In the black.
Well, it's not good.
In the red. I was in the red. That's for sure.
What's the Redcast? So we view that more positively.
Yes, we are.
Right.
Yeah, hell, if she's winning like that, Rob, we should just screw the whole nepotism thing and bring her on. So
you know what?
Yeah,
it's funny. I was gonna make a joke about that, but it's almost not a joke. Like she seems to know what she's doing. I'd love to know how she decides. Because I'm just taking her advice now.
Well, it's she probably has a paid site she goes on, obviously. So we did not get our best bets in last week, unless Boomer, did you text mine out by chance?
No, I did not. So.
Or tweeted it. I did throw out before the game started on our text thread. I mentioned my best bet of the week was the under in the Ole Miss LSU, and it hit. I'll personally say that
count. Don't remember that happening. Dave doesn't count.
It was out there, my friend. I am now 6-3 officially in my mind.
Check the phone lines, Rob, guys.
I did see. Let's see here. Where was that? Nice. Here we go. Jeremy Brandt, Vegas Jer, says, "Hey Dave, nice job on the picks this year." So thank you, Vegas Jer. Appreciate it. I'm 5-3 officially on the posted best bets, but 6-3. So that's up 3 units. I'll take that all the time. And last week was a tough one though. There's it's difficult to pick games last week. I didn't have a lot of success overall, but I think I went 5-6 in my straight bets. What's on your board this week, guys?
There's all sorts of interesting games this week. Some of them, just kind of looking at, the Nebraska one obviously opened at, opened at -5, and I've seen it at -7.5 to -8.
It was at 6.5 immediately after that, Boomer. So I don't know where that 5 got posted.
Yeah, that was a very
I saw it 5.5 at one point, and it's at 7 now on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's -8 in a few sites. So money's definitely going a long ways away. And I learned my lesson. I'm not betting Nebraska anymore this year, so definitely not getting involved in that one. Gosh, there were a few other games I had in mind. Rob, what did you have penciled in?
Go ahead, Rob.
I mean, there's You know, I mean, this is, and I told you I took a week off, and it's kind of screwing with me because now I'm just like, well, that was probably one of the best weeks I've had in my life. Like as far as betting goes, Kathy hasn't come out with her picks yet this week. So
tell you what, Rob,
let
me throw out some
throw
ideas
some out there for
you.
me, Dave, because I have been looking. I had some written down. I just can't find it.
We've got a Thursday night game in the Pac-12. Utah is -7.5 against Washington State. Up in the Palouse, so that could be a bit of a trap there for Utah, especially with the hook. But Utah should, you would think, be better than a touchdown against Washington State, but you never know. Saturday games, you've got this is a tricky one to me, and I don't know where I'm going to go with it. But Oklahoma 4-3 on the year right now, going to Ames. Iowa State 3-4, and Oklahoma's favored by 1.5.
Yeah, that was one I was surprised at.
Practically a pick
on my board.
Yeah.
What are they seeing out of that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Is there an injury I'm not thinking of? But yeah, Iowa State's just kind of been. They're all one-score losses, and we know what those mean. But that's a tough one. Yeah, I'm surprised.
I think Campbell's had some success versus Oklahoma, right? So.
Well, he has, but yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one. Ohio State, 15.5 point favorites right now against Penn State. This is at Happy Valley, but it is not a night game. That's what they got last week. The whiteout was against Minnesota. It's a big noon kickoff, so they don't get the whiteout. A line that kind of stinks to me and I'm a little worried about, Wake Forest -4 versus Louisville. Like Wake Forest is the 10th ranked team in the country. They're only better than Louisville by 4 points. That seems a lot. Okie State and K-State. That's going to be a really good matchup. Another near pick'em. K-State's actually favored by 1.5. They are at home.
Yeah. Or if you like a sickos committee type game, you've got Iowa and Northwestern this week. Over under, you can get it 37. So
it was 35 and has been going up because people are like, that's just too low.
Well, the other game too, Syracuse is a 3-point favorite at home versus Notre Dame, which I brought up earlier. You know, as far as one of the most disappointing teams, and a few, that might be a good one too to take Syracuse because, like I said, Notre Dame's just been one of the most disappointing teams all year, and they just haven't been, at least sometimes they're interesting to watch. They haven't even been interesting to watch. They're
more disappointing to you because you threw out the great stat, which was legitimate at the time, that they always finished ranked higher than their preseason ranking X amount of years, but that was under Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Not Marcus Freeman. So
yeah. And that stat was actually from a podcast that follows us. We follow them, the Four Horsemen podcast. And they were the ones that put that out there. And I, to their credit too, they haven't completely flamed out on Twitter, which I was kind of expecting them to have like some crazy meltdown, and they've done pretty well on that. So,
all right, a few others, Rob.
The Oregon California is interesting. Oregon's playing at Cal. They're number 8 right now. They're 6-1. Cal hasn't been completely terrible. Oregon's a 17-point favorite on that one. That might be a little bit closer, I think, maybe. Than people think. I don't know why. That's a Rob gut one, but Cal hasn't been completely terrible this year.
No, true.
And they've even their losses, they've played close losses,
but
right?
Who did they lose to, Rob?
Everybody. It's Cal.
No, they lost in particular. They lost to somebody they shouldn't have lost to.
Oh yeah, they oh god, now you're killing me.
They lost to the University of Colorado.
That's right. They did lose to Colorado.
Hard for me to pull the trigger on the Golden Bears.
Colorado was at home and coming off a tough. I don't know. Well, look, Cal's 4-3 against the spread this year too. So I mean,
other games of note, really quick here. Kentucky goes to Knoxville to take on Tennessee. This is 13 right now. I think that's too much. I think Tennessee is probably going to win this game, but I could see Kentucky mucking this up and hanging around. I don't have a lot of trust in Will Levis, but I don't know. I just think that's a lot. 2 touchdowns. I don't know.
Yeah, another one I was looking at that just seems like a big spread. Granted, this is going to depend on an injury update. Minnesota is minus 14.5 against Rutgers.
Yeah.
Rutgers isn't great, but they keep being scrappy and close. And Minnesota has just been sluggish these last few weeks. A lot of it depends if
And
Tanner
Morgan
back.
playing, right?
Yeah, so that's one you got to kind of wait and see. I wouldn't, jump on that just yet, but if you can get a little later in the week and get some idea. I mean, I think he warmed up this week against Penn State, but I don't think he played at all, did he? I don't recall him
I don't
playing.
think
So when Minnesota's down, Morgan and they'd already lost Ottman Bell for the season. They're just a very different team when watching them play. So that might be one that you might think about Rutgers, as weird as that is to say. But
Is Adrian hurt?
He was.
Yeah, he went out in that game. No one's got a good explanation.
Is he still going to be out? Because Kansas State's a 1.5 point favorite over Oklahoma State this week. And
intriguing. I don't know if I mentioned that about 5 minutes ago, Rob.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry. That's why I asked. Did you bring that up? Because I missed it because I was looking at something else probably. But that's another one.
We talked about Syracuse, Notre Dame.
With you on that one. Yeah.
Nice one, Boomer.
Sorry, I was looking at something else, and because you caught me.
That's all right, my friend. I'm just giving you a hard time. The only other one I'll throw out that's intriguing is Big Ten game right now. Sparty is a 21.5 point dog to Michigan. It is in Ann Arbor. Michigan State usually plays Michigan tough, and you got the hook there. I could be intrigued on that one. We'll see where that number moves over the next several days.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Anything else?
UCLA, man. They play Stanford. I might just take them at any spread at this point. Yeah. So.
Out of score. All right, guys. Let's get out of here with some parting shots, and I will throw it to Boomer.
Really just have kind of one parting shot this week in honor of the Nebraska basketball getting a start. Granted, it was against Shattern State, and they're now selling beer at Pinnacle Bank Arena. So I'm having one in honor, and it sold, and I've heard it was a moderate success. I don't think anyone broke down.
$9 beers, Boomer.
Yeah, they're $9, but there was no drunken frenzy that I know of, no riots. I think Nebraska fans comported themselves well and showed it can be done. So maybe we'll be seeing that at a few more events. Maybe some other stadiums could make that happen too. So good job, Husker fans. Let's keep that going and drink responsibly.
Awesome. All right, Rob.
Well, I would just like to say to all of Husker Nation going into this game against Illinois this weekend, at least one thing we're not going to have to worry about is Mickey Joseph grabbing the headset because Illinois comes out in an odd front.
All right. It's true. I'm not worried about that.
I
don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, guys. Good show. Enjoyed it. Hopefully we can be talking about a victory next week. I believe we're going to probably delay the Redcast for Tuesday to avoid Halloween. So we'll be one day later at least with the Redcast. But
we don't want you to miss trick-or-treating, Dave.
That's right. Hey, it's a little earlier here, and a lot of the Redcast listeners are going to be out anyway. So have your fun. And for now, let's call that a Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.